The grizzly bear is one of the most powerful and fearsome wild bears on Earth. With its massive body and overwhelming strength, it can easily take down large prey such as deer, elk, or even bison. Grizzly attacks are often sudden and lightning fast, leaving victims little chance to escape. Not only are they ferocious, but they are also patient and cunning, sometimes becoming a silent and formidable predator. The combination of raw muscle power and sophisticated hunting instincts has forged the image of a true ruler of nature. This video will take you to spectacular and fierce moments of the grizzly bear, a symbol of wild strength.
Amid the frozen rivers of North America, the salmon emerges as a symbol of resilience, with its epic upstream journey to spawn. Scarlet schools hurl themselves against the raging currents and towering rapids, defying countless lurking dangers. Yet there, the gray bear waits, a patient predator. When a salmon breaks the water's surface, the bear strikes in a lightning-fast blow, turning the river into a battlefield of life and death. On one side is the desperate struggle to preserve a species, on the other the blood-bound instinct of a ruler, painting a scene of nature both brutal and magnificent. On the icy rivers of Alaska, as the red salmon begin their upstream journey to spawn, nature awakens in a breathtaking spectacle of life. Shimmering schools of crimson and silver fish hurl themselves against raging rapids and pounding falls, driven by the instinct to carry on their kind. And it is in this very moment that the grizzly bear, the mighty predator of the wilderness, appears, turning the riverbank into an arena of life and death. With its massive frame and overwhelming presence, the bear stood patiently at the base of the waterfall, cold eyes fixed on the foaming rush of water. It knew that with the slightest misstep, the prey would slip past and be gone. But when the moment came, the bear roared and lunged forward, its enormous claws tearing through the water, tossing the struggling salmon into the air. In an instant, the river exploded with spray as the shimmering fish fell neatly into the bear's sharp jaws, ending its brutal journey. The wind whistled through the riverside trees, the roar of rushing water blending with the predator's fierce growls to create a majestic symphony of nature. For the grizzly, this was not just a feast, but the very source of life to store energy for the harsh winter ahead. For the salmon, each thunderous strike was a stark reminder of fate's fragility in their struggle to endure. The hunt, both brutal and magnificent, etched a timeless truth of the wild. The strong survive, the weak fall, and the eternal cycle of life and death continues unbroken in the frozen land. By the stream, a moose grazes peacefully on fresh grass when it suddenly comes face to face with a group of grizzlies. Sensing the danger close in, it quickly turns and bolts, weaving through the thick trees before vanishing into the deep forest, escaping the tense pursuit. By the riverbank, the grizzly stands watching, its cold eyes fixed on a moose and her calf standing in the water. When the calf moves into range, the bear takes a slow step forward, ready to strike. But suddenly the mother moose charges onto the shore, attacking fiercely with the raw power and instinct of a protector. Caught off guard, the grizzly hesitates, then retreats in haste. Thanks to her courage, the calf is safe, free from the claws of the forest's most feared predator. In the rushing river, a moose panics and flees, with the grizzly charging hard behind. In a split second, a powerful swipe knocks the moose off balance, sending it crashing into the water. The grizzly pins it down, striking at the prey's head, then drags the body to shore, asserting the absolute dominance of the mountain's true ruler. Horns and a body weighing a ton, the bison can stand as a living fortress against any foe. But nature is unforgiving. A massive gray bear suddenly appears, plains. Thunderous roars mix with the sound of pounding earth as the bear strikes with lightning-fast blows, while the bison lowers its horns, retaliating with hammer-like thrusts. This clash is not just a struggle for survival, but a majestic portrait of the wild, where true power alone decides who reigns. At the forest's edge, two massive bison suddenly turn their gaze toward the gray bear. Sensing imminent danger, the bear let out a low growl before swiftly turning away, slipping skillfully into the deep woods, leaving behind the fierce horns ready to charge. By the roadside, the herd of bison grazed quietly, unaware of the danger creeping closer. From within the thicket, the gray bear crouched low, its cold eyes locked on the weakest in the herd, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. At the foot of the mountain, even a lone bison was enough to make the scene feel breathless. When it spotted the gray bear blocking its path, it did not retreat, but lowered its head, horns gleaming in the sunlight, and charged like a storm. The ground shook with each heavy step as dust rose in thick clouds. Taken aback by such raw power, the gray bear roared, but quickly turned away, slipping into the dense forest. Across the vast prairie, the deer moved with graceful steps and watchful eyes. They embodied elegance and alertness in the wild. But such peace never lasts, for the ruler of the forest, the grizzly, can appear at any moment. When its deep roar thundered, the herd jolted awake, their powerful legs shooting them forward like arrows slicing through the wind. The chase became a breathless duel between the grizzly's brutal strength and the deer's extraordinary agility. It was a ruthless drama of survival, where every fleeting second marked the boundary between life and death. At the forest's edge, beneath the dry grass, a grizzly quietly searched for food. Suddenly, its sharp eyes spotted a young deer fast asleep. In an instant, the silence was broken. The bear moved in, swift and decisive. The fawn awoke in panic, struggling to break free, but the grizzly's immense power overwhelmed it completely. It was a brutal encounter, a stark reminder of nature's harsh law of survival, where the strong always claim victory. At the forest's edge by a watering hole, a herd of deer bent their heads to drink in peace. Suddenly, a grizzly spotted them and charged, sending the herd scattering in panic into the woods. In the chaos, a frail fawn was caught in the bear's grasp. The chase ended swiftly as the predator tore into its prey in the heart of the forest. Across the vast plains of the northern mountains, the bison, symbol of strength, with its massive frame, thick coat, and proud curved horns, it stands as a true warrior of the nature. In the dense forest along the hillside, the grizzly appears, its sharp gaze tracking every move of the herd. When these two forces meet, the land itself seems to hold its breath. The bear roars and the bison lowers its head, ready for the clash between two symbols of wilderness power, where only courage and strength decide who will rule. At the edge of the forest, two massive bison turn their heads in unison, their wary eyes fixed on the grizzly. Sensing the danger closing in, the bear lets out a low growl, then swiftly slips back into the forest, leaving behind the furious horns, ready to charge in rage. By the roadside, a herd of bison grazes peacefully, unaware of the danger lurking nearby. In the bushes, the grizzly crouches low, its cold eyes locked onto every movement, waiting for the perfect moment to strike at a calf in the herd. At the foot of the mountain, a lone bison stands tall in the open plains. When the grizzly blocks its path, it doesn't back down. It lowers its head, horns gleaming, and charges like a storm. The ground trembles, dust fills the air. Facing such raw power, the grizzly roars, then turns and disappears into the deep forest. In the wilds of North America, gray wolves have long been famed as tireless warriors, hunting in packs with cunning strategies and flawless teamwork. Their speed, intelligence, and unity make them a force feared by many other creatures. Yet when they step into the territory of the grizzly, the solitary giant of the wilderness, that dominance is no longer absolute. Encounters between the two are always charged with tension. On one side, the overwhelming power and authority of the bear. On the other, the agility and collective strength of the wolves. This is the brutal portrait of nature, where the strong and the clever constantly test one another in the fight for survival. At the edge of the damp forest, two massive grizzlies confront a fierce wolf pack in a blazing battle. Neither side is willing to yield, determined to defend their territory and their claim over every scrap of food. Roars echo through the air, blending with haunting howls, shaking the stillness of the night. The brutal clash ends with no clear victor. Amid the snow-covered mountains and forests, while the grizzly is absorbed in foraging beside a bush, a wolf suddenly lunges from behind. The lightning-fast strike stuns the bear, leaving it off balance and forcing it to flee from the danger. On the vast open field beyond the hill, a massive grizzly bear accidentally wanders into the wolves' territory. Immediately, the predators unite, their howls rising like a menacing warning. With flawless coordination and relentless attacks, the pack creates overwhelming pressure, forcing the grizzly to back down and retreat from the land that rightfully belongs to him. In the dense forests and vast valleys of North America, the elk emerges with majestic beauty, its massive antlers like nature's weapons. They are gentle grazers living in herds and relying on vigilance to survive. But in the wild, that peace is always fragile. The grizzly bear, a powerful predator, often lurks at the forest's edge, waiting for a chance to strike at a calf or the weak. The encounters are tense and unforgiving. Adult elk fight back with the strength of their colossal antlers, while the grizzly unleashes the force of its claws in deadly pounce. It is a moment where life and death are separated by a single breath, revealing the brutality and the grandeur of nature. In the icy river, white spray erupts as a breathtaking chase unfolds between the grizzly and a moose. The massive moose throws all its strength into the current, hoping the raging water will carry it to safety. But behind, the grizzly presses on relentlessly, each stride heavy yet unyielding. As the distance closes, the bear launches a fierce attack. The moose fights back with its mighty antlers, striking in desperate sweeps. Yet in the freezing water that cuts like knives, its strength begins to fade, each defense weaker than the last, until the battle tilts in favor of the predator. In Yellowstone, a grizzly suddenly appears, sending the entire herd of moose into panic. In an instant, the thunder of hooves fills the air as the herd bolts into the deep forest to escape the predator. By the quiet riverbank, two moose graze on tender grass. Suddenly, from behind, a grizzly bear bursts out in ambush. The surprise attack startles the herd, sending them rushing into the swift current to escape the predator. On the mountainside, the grizzly charges after a moose. But the clever prey dives into the rushing river, forcing the bear to give up. At the forest's edge, the grizzly silently watches a herd of moose on the move. It waits with patience, eyes locked on the weakest calf. When the moment comes, the bear charges forward, its strike swift and precise, bringing the prey down. In an instant, the calf is dragged into the underbrush, quickly becoming a meal for the predator. Across the vast tundra plains of the north, herds of caribou begin their monumental migration. Stretching thousands of kilometers, is one of nature's most spectacular feats. Each step carries them across frozen rivers, treacherous marshes, and snow-covered fields in search of fertile lands. But this path of survival is far from peaceful. Among the fragile young of the herd, the towering figure of a grizzly bear emerges, bringing with it the shadow of death. A tense chase erupts. The caribou rely on speed and the power of unity to escape, while the bear strikes with overwhelming force. It is a brutal portrait of nature, where tireless migrants clash with a predator that rules the wild. By the roaring stream, as the rushing waters churned, the gray bear suddenly charged out with a thunderous roar, striking the unlucky reindeer. The prey fought back desperately, its antlers flung in a hopeless defense, but was quickly forced down into the icy water. Foam sprayed wildly, breaths came sharp and fast before fading beneath the crashing waves. As the reindeer's body grew still, from the dark forest shadows, the pack of gray bears emerged, closing the deadly chase with a fierce, primal feast. By the rushing riverbank, white spray burst into the air as the gray bear's piercing gaze fixed on a lost young reindeer. In an instant, it lunged forward like lightning, driving the terrified prey closer to the swirling current. The sound of thrashing claws and crashing water merged into nature's chaotic symphony. As the reindeer staggered, desperately searching for escape, the gray bear unleashed a thunderous strike, swift and merciless. The faint struggle faded away, and the prey collapsed, its body dragged onto the cold, stony shore. In the stillness of the mountains and forest, the towering figure of the gray bear loomed over its prize, sealing the breathtaking moment of the hunt. At the edge of the dense forest, the herd of reindeer kept moving forward on their endless migration. Hidden beneath the thick canopy, a great bear watched intently, its eyes locked on the weakest calf in the group. Waiting for the perfect moment, it suddenly burst out, delivering a powerful and precise strike. In the blink of an eye, the young reindeer was thrown down, becoming the prize of a formidable hunter.
The grizzly's attacks never failed to send shivers down our spines with their raw, untamed power. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to keep following these thrilling wild moments.